Hello everyone, my name is Roman and I'm the VP of the Physics Club here at UTM.
Hey everyone, this is Shri and I'm the event coordinator for the Physics Club.
So first of all, we'd like to take this opportunity and wish all the new students a great new upcoming school year. We hope you enjoy your courses and all of the people coming in to join the physics and chem and all the STEM faculties. Welcome to the family. We hope you enjoy. And all the newcomers to the Physics Club, also welcome, guys.
So this is a podcast and we'll try to keep it as regular as possible because you need your regular physics content. And this is a podcast about spaceflight, rockets, physics in general, and many more cool things which you will like definitely. And we will try to keep it that way. So the plan is to keep it bi-weekly and we'll release it every 2 weeks. And the schedule may change according to the schedule of our exams and your exams. Rest assured, we'll keep it regular and you will hear about all the latest things that are happening in spaceflight, rocketry, physics, and many more things.
And if you're a part of our physics club, you want to keep in touch with us, there are many different ways. You can follow us on our Instagram, where we post our updates and our photos and basically everything happening. You can follow us on our Facebook. We have a Facebook page that only posts official updates about the club. Or you can also join us on our Facebook group, where you can participate in discussions and meet your peers. Also, if you are a part of the physics club, you can join our Discord server, and we have our regulars there. And there's really lots of things to do on the Discord server, so I won't spoil. Just if you want, join us. We'll be happy to welcome you there.
What we have planned for you is that we'll have our space news first, which is coming up next. And then we're gonna go in depth about some topic, and today's topic is mainly SpaceX and the latest Starship hops that they have been doing. And Starship is a really, like, some people like to call it a water tower, so we'll see all of that in that section.
Today in the space news, Yole's Delta IV aborted seconds before liftoff on August 29th. Also in the news, Astra failed to launch its first rocket, resulting in a fireball on September 11th.
In other news, we have SpaceX, who have been performing Starship hops regularly, and their serial number 5 did a 150-meter hop on August the 4th. And the serial number 6 did a hop recently, and that was also a 150-meter hop. Elon Musk recently announced that serial number 8 will be undergoing testing, static fires, and eventually will do a hop of 20 kilometers above the ground, and that is going to be a sight to behold. In other news, China recently launched a spaceplane on their rocket Long March 2F, and it completed some of its orbits and then landed in a secret airbase deep inside mainland China.
Now onto our main topic, that is SpaceX. For those who don't know what SpaceX is, everyone knows
SpaceX. You must be living under a rock if you don't know SpaceX. Like, everyone knows the Falcon 9. And everyone knows that it performs propulsive landings in what SpaceX calls hover slams, but that's just the SpaceX front. What's happening behind is their preparation for the next rocket that's going to be in the heavy lift class, and that's gonna be like really, really, really powerful. Like, it's gonna be the most powerful, not the most powerful, but at least one of the top contenders for the most powerful rocket in the coming years.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be the most powerful rocket, actually. I think by thrust and, by pure thrust, I think it's going to be the most powerful rocket.
Yeah, that could be true. Like, if we just talk about payload, I guess New Glenn or Vulcan could carry more, but Uh, it depends. Like Starship would be much more versatile than all the other rockets because then they would be like they could be used to refuel other starships in orbit. They have a potential variation of starship that's going to be used as a lunar lander. Uh, Although it looks really weird when landing on the moon, but Starship is a good potential lunar lander because it has enough delta V to reach there and land on the moon, uh, bring the next humans onto the moon.
And consider the fact that, the Starship is completely reusable. So I believe it's 100% reusable. Like the second stage, the Starship itself is reusable, obviously. And the super heavy booster, or the main stage, is also reusable. So the whole spacecraft essentially is like, it's actually like a huge, space plane, basically. In terms of like reusability, like Elon Musk said many times, you don't, fly a Boeing 747 once and toss it away after a single use. So I guess this is what they're going for with the Starship as well.
Yeah, I guess like when they were first proposing the idea of Starship, like they were releasing it to the public, their their main primary idea was that it would be a point-to-point um, means of transportation. Like say you want to go from New York to say someplace afar, like say Paris.
Like Shanghai.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say Shanghai. Then using air travel, it would be a long journey, really long journey, and
Yeah, it's like 16 hours.
yeah, really. If SpaceX develops a fleet of starships, then the point-to-point travel would the time would reduce significantly, and I believe it's the future of
I
travel.
agree, yeah. And, considering the fact that they're switching to cleaner fuels, they might actually, pull off a cleaner transport vehicle than planes.
True, I completely agree, and it's like some people call us, not call us, but call people like us SpaceX fanatics, but it's completely untrue. Like a lot of people are fans of SpaceX because they do make a difference. They have brought about a change in the entire space industry. They brought about the advent of commercialization of spaceflight, which has brought down the costs of spaceflight much lower, by a large amount.
Yeah, true.
And their reusable spacecraft bring down the cost of spaceflight much. Like
It's cheaper, yeah.
yeah, it's cheaper. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say.
And the thing is, like the economic aspect of the the space flight and this craft is really good and all, but just the sole idea of having these like sci-fi rockets, basically just pulled from sci-fi, they inspire future generations to kind of strive in the STEM field and basically just contribute,
Yeah.
be the pioneers of space travel. And I think that's really amazing what SpaceX is doing. Just aside from all the amazing pioneering and engineering, they're also inspiring younger generations and our generation also.
Yeah, that's true. The biggest example that SpaceX gives is when they were founded, the term for a return to launch site rocket was not invented yet because everyone thought it was impossible.
Yeah.
And they made it possible in less than 13 years.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
2015 was the first propulsive landing, first successful landing.
Yeah. And consider a water-based propulsive landing, like the I Still Love You carrier, the ship, right? These are just insane.
Of course, I still love you. Yeah. Yeah. Just to be clear to the audience, I'm not professing love to Roman, but that's the name of the drone ship that's out there in the sea. That on which the Falcon 9 lands. The Falcon 9 first stage lands. There are two drone ships, I think. There is, of course, I Still Love You, and there is Just Read the Instructions. Just Read the Instructions was actually the part of the SpaceX DM2 mission, which we hope to cover someday.
An interesting point to make is if the audience wants, they can go on YouTube and look up a video on, it's called How Not to Land a Rocket or a Falcon 9 booster.
Oh, yeah.
You know that video, right?
Recommend that.
So it's incredible how robust these ships are. I mean, having a huge main stage, like an entire Falcon 9 just crash, and the thing being basically, to the most part intact. I think that's just incredible.
Yeah. So, I want the audience to imagine an approximately 70-meter tall thing. Now, for those of you who are metrically impaired, I'll tell you in stories. It might be around, say, okay, so 10 meters is one story, so about 7-story tall building.
Yep, exactly.
Approximately. That's coming into land with just one engine. It brings it to a complete stop.
Yeah.
Just imagine that. From subsonic speeds to, with just one engine. So just imagine how powerful that engine is.
And consider the fact that the 4 landing legs, they had so many problems with the landing legs. Before they installed the crush core, to those who don't know, crush core is basically a substance that absorbs energy to smoothen out the landing.
It's basically like a shock absorber, but one-time use.
Exactly, yeah. And it's located in the landing legs of the Falcon 9. And before they installed these, they had so many failures with the legs, because the energy was just too great and the legs would just kind of fold back up. There's actually one of the videos where the mechanism failed and the leg just kind of basically failed and the rocket flopped on its side. But it did land though. I mean, kinda.
It did, yeah. A bit hard landing, I must say.
Yeah.
Fun fact. In 2018, I went to an organization called Team Indus, and this place was one of the finalists for the Google Lunar X Prize. For those who don't know, please check it out on the internet. Team Indus, check them out. They were going to land a lunar lander basically with a rover, and I got to check some of their stuff out. And even in Moon's 1/6 gravity, they do need shock absorbers like the crush core. So I got to see the crush core they were using for the lunar lander there, and it was,
that is really cool.
Yeah, I saw the actual material that they were using, and that was really cool. I found it really cool.
Did it have any pattern to it, or?
Yeah, it did. It had a hexagonal pattern to it, like something like a beehive, and that was primarily to lessen the material taken and improve on the strength.
Yeah, right.
So basically, strength to weight ratio was high of that. Anyways, we have deviated a little bit, but onto the topic of Starship, because see, we are talking about Starship, but we need to talk about all the systems that get us there. And Starship, because it will be 100% reusable, it would be really, it will comprise of many systems, many nuts and bolts that make it happen. And it's gonna be one hell of a ride when it launches.
Yeah, consider the SLS, the long overdue project of NASA that's still it's sitting on it's not even sitting on the launch pad yet. I don't know where it's sitting, but it's not even in one piece yet. But that rocket is non-reusable, and comparing the SLS to the Starship, I could say that the Starship is much smarter. Not like smarter, but it's smarter, because there's a lot more automation.
Yeah. Did you say SLS? Do you mean the long dead rocket?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're fans of SLS, you're gonna have a hard time on this podcast.
Yeah, the Starship, it's quite a marvel of engineering, considering like everything has to work perfectly, especially on liftoff. And taking into account that Elon Musk said that the thing will launch around 100 people or 120 people at a time. I mean, that's really ambitious. You have 100 people on board.
That's crazy.
A barrel with a nozzle, basically. That's smart.
To put things in perspective, about only 550 people have gone to space till now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And at most 7 people have gone on a single spaceship.
That's really, really ambitious, and that's crazy, but
yeah. And just imagine 100 people at the same time will become astronauts. That's like 1/5 the
all at
current
once.
number of astronauts, historically.
I mean, you gotta take the risk if you want to go colonize different planets, or if you want to establish a permanent base on the moon. You gotta take risks.
Coming back to the topic of Starship is going so much testing right now, so much testing that it never fails, or the safety margins are very high, and they're testing it to its failure, so they know where the failure point of that material is, and that's what is being tested right now. It's they're doing tank tests and pressure tests, and they're just checking how strong each material is, and they're taking it beyond the capability of that thing, and if it survives, then we know it will survive the launch when it launches.
They're actually doing the failure test. They're basically they're pushing the tanks, like what you said.
Yeah.
They're taking the tanks, and they're basically just filling them up as above the limit, and they just see how much they can take before they fail. So yeah, I guess that adds an extra layer of protection. Knowing your true limit, not your calculated limit, but your true limit, I believe is very important when it comes to these things. And also one thing to note is, did you notice that the Starship it doesn't have an escape launch system or an escape system?
Yeah, that's true, but I guess that has happened because Starship itself could act like an escape system, and the plan, their SpaceX's plan generally is that they have said that we want to keep the Starship as reliable as possible, and so
exactly,
that there's no need for a launch escape system ever. Right. So we were just talking about pressure tests. So since October 2019, when in October 2019 Elon Musk revealed the first Starship prototype, and that was just a mock-up to show how it will look like, and at the last moment they were actually going with 3 aerodynamic fins for on the Starship, but at the last minute they changed it to 2, and I can see why, because when they will be re-entering, it will not fly like a plane, but it will behave like a plane, and in that case the third aerodynamic surface won't be needed as much, so they have decided to drop that, because in space, whenever you're going to space, you need to conserve mass, because you can't take everything to space.
Yeah, it's gonna be, when it's gonna be descending, it's gonna be more like a space plane belly flop, basically, because if you've seen the simulations, it's gonna do the stopping maneuver where it's just gonna go on its belly and act as a brake. Basically, if you've ever done or seen anyone skydive, if they spread their arms and legs, there's a lot more air resistance, so the person's gonna fall slower, and then if they bring their arms and feet together, and if they face downwards, they're gonna fall much faster. Basically, it's the exact same idea. If you have the rocket going belly flop, there's a lot more surface to keep in touch with when it re-enters the atmosphere, so the stopping happens a lot faster. Hence why you need the thermal protective coating on its belly to protect against the the super violent temperatures as it descends. And just before it lands, it's gonna fire its thrusters and basically just upright itself.
Because although it looks like a plane from side on, it will land vertically wherever it goes. Even on the moon, it will land vertically.
Yes, exactly.
Because it doesn't make sense to land horizontally because it's not a plane. It won't glide to a stop like the space shuttle did.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have the gears to land as a plane. So, and one interesting thing to note is that if you've seen the SN6 launch, the Starship had 4 legs, right? And the SN5, it had 6 legs. So it was actually Elon Musk's idea to get rid of two legs. I believe it's to add the like extra stability on landing. But the thing is, if you've seen, like, you have to be very careful when seeing this. But when SN6 landed, it was a little bit slanted. And I assume it's the same problem that happens to the Falcon 9 sometimes when they come in really hot for landing. The crush core, basically crushes too much, and one of the legs is basically, it comes up a little bit more than the other ones, and it become the whole rocket itself, it kind of slants a little bit. And I assume it's I think it's the same idea here.
Even I noticed that it was tilted. Like, I saw both the serial number 5 hop and the serial number 6 hop, and we're just gonna refer to serial number as SN for the rest of this podcast. So SN5 and SN6, I saw both the hops, and I could see SN6 was tilted. Even on just my phone, I could see it was tilted. So it must have been a significant tilt. We could definitely call it the leaning tower of Boca Chica. For those of you who don't know, Boca Chica is the place where Starship is being tested. It's in Texas, and it's right on the southern edge of Texas, right on the coastline. So that if they want to do a sea launch, they can go out to sea from there.
And just for reference, a Raptor engine, this is the main thing in a rocket. You got to have a strong engine, and SpaceX developed their own engines, and the one that they'll be putting on the Starship is going to be the Raptor engine. They're going to have the vacuum version and the sea level version, and the engine is going to have the maximum thrust of around 2,200 kilonewtons. I mean, that's insane.
That's insane. Yeah, that's really insane. Another thing that I would like to say here is that an engine is a rocket engine, especially, even a car engine. If you talk about the car, a car doesn't go anywhere without its engine. The engine is what drives everything in the car, and that's possibly why, that's possibly the most costliest part of the car itself. Similarly, the engine is probably the costliest part of the rocket itself, because it involves very detailed plumbing to ensure fuel and oxidizers mix properly, and they combust properly. They provide the accurate force and everything, and it is a really expensive part. And when you buy it from other companies, it becomes even more expensive. So SpaceX,
and it's also risky.
It is also risky,
because you don't know you're buying from a different company. I mean, let's not consider the really big and the really old companies that have been flight proven a million times. But if you're like a startup, for example, or if you're developing a new rocket like Starship, and you're trusting someone or some other country or some other company to develop a rocket engine for you, I mean, you have to really, really trust them, I guess, to put their engine on your rocket.
And I must say, we're talking about Starship here, and all the serial numbers that have been tested till now, there have been at least 3 major explosions that have happened, and in all the 3 cases they have lost the engine, because obviously it was a giant explosion. You will obviously lose the engine, and it's the most costliest part, and they're just testing there. So for like a normal space company would not test it like this if they were outsourcing the engine, because then they would, risk destroying it like SpaceX have done in the past. But like there like in space there are faults. There are many times there are faults, and you cannot always buy a new engine from the new company because it entails a lot of cost. That's why I guess SpaceX has made a wise decision of making their own engines.
Yeah, that's exactly
And
it.
yeah, and another thing I have to add is that like Starship, like we talked about how it's unique and everything, but we have another thing that's unique about Starship, that it's made entirely out of stainless steel, and they're like just basically welded together. Did you like? Obviously, everyone noticed that, and the like, it's probably the reason why it's called the Flying Water Tower.
That's a very good point, actually. Yeah. I don't think there has ever been a rocket made out of stainless steel. Correct me if I'm wrong, though.
Like they must have used stainless steel in some parts, but not entirely made of stainless steel.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they
just the body itself. I think it's the first one.
Yeah, it's just the body. They
Yeah.
basically like after some explosions, like there were some tank tests in which just the cover blew off. So for the
Yeah.
next test, they just welded it back together, and they redid the test. That's what happened. And speaking of flying, did you notice in SN5 and SN6 that um, there was a small block right on the top? That was a mass simulator, and that was just to simulate the payload. And when the engine was there, like if you see like Elon's tweets from I guess earlier in the year, there were if you see those tweets, you'll see the Raptor engine is slightly offset to the main center of the rocket, and you will be like the audience must feel like, why is it offset when they're just testing? It's because there'll be three rocket engines there, and if you're testing one just one rocket engine for a hop, you would like to keep it where it's where it would actually be in the final configuration, so that you know the vehicle characteristics very well. And
And just as a side note, consider how powerful the thing is that it can, like a single engine can lift off
exactly, yeah,
an entire, water tower, basically, with a mass simulator.
30 meter,
Yeah,
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 30
it's
meter
crazy.
tall tower. Yeah. Oh, okay. I just realized when we were talking about Falcon 9's first stage landing, I made a calculation mistake. I said 10 meters is one story, and that's definitely not true. Okay, so that's 23 stories basically. So Falcon 9 is basically a 23-story building that's landing on top of a ship in the middle of the ocean.
Oh yeah, just to add about the Falcon 9s, as an add-on, we were talking about the engines. There was actually one single engine failure of a Falcon 9, and it still performed its mission perfectly. Do you remember?
So yeah, I remember there was a single engine failure on one of the missions, but I don't remember exactly which mission it was part of. But yeah, that goes on to show the reliability of the engine and the rocket itself.
Yeah, and I guess we still have to, see and get the Starship flight proven with its current rocket engines. But so far, they've performed perfectly. SN5 and SN6, they worked perfectly, and the thrust control, everything was perfect. And the water towers, I should be more respectful to the engineers. The mock-ups of the rockets, they survived.
Yeah, and we were talking about the offset engine there. So that offset engine, what it does is that it tilts the rocket, and when you have a rocket that's tilting, it's gonna tilt more, and then it's gonna tilt more, and eventually you're gonna end up in the ground. So you cannot have that. So what SpaceX did was something called as it looked like a drift. So they were controlling the rocket engine such that they were sliding towards the landing side, like like literally in the air. They were sliding towards the landing site and continuously hovering or ascending to the desired hop height and then coming down. That is a really awkward maneuver and it's really difficult to control. Like people have tried it on Kerbal Space Program and it's really difficult to land manually. So they have computers that control the rocket. And for those of you who don't know what Kerbal Space Program is, maybe you should check that out before you listen to our podcast.
Oh, you should definitely check that out. Oh, for sure. If you're a space enthusiast, if you're a rocket fanatic, if you're a rocket fanatic, you have to know about KSP. But if you don't, definitely check it out. You're gonna be very satisfied. It's basically it's a simulation. It's a computer game where you essentially have an entire space agency or
to yourself,
space company
yeah.
to yourself. Yeah, and then you can just build whatever crazy rocket you want, like anything really.
Yeah, you can build rovers, you can build planes, you can build rockets, you can build structures, you can build everything.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a really amazing game. And what makes it even more amazing is that it's so amazing that even the people who are higher ups, like CEOs of companies, they know about it and they have played it and they know about it. Like they speak highly of it. So you should definitely check that game out.
Yeah, and the science YouTubers like Scott Manley and Everyday Astronaut, they also play that game as a means to sort of represent the missions or like to speed up the missions.
Reenact.
Yeah.
I would definitely, if you're starting out on Kerbal Space Program, I would definitely recommend Scott Manley's tutorials. They're really good.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, so we were talking about the power drift or just the drift maneuver, and that's really awkward. And people have tried it on Kerbal Space, as we were talking about, and it is really difficult to land manually. And so they have assigned flight computers to do that.
Yeah, I think when you have obviously if you create a machine that only performs one task, it's going to perform that certain task better than any human being. So that's definitely one of the tasks for sure. Because can you imagine having a pilot control basically the thrust control and the vectoring of the thrust, so that the rocket moves perfectly in a certain direction with a certain speed. That's unreal. I don't think a human can do that, no matter how much practice they get. Maybe they can after a ton of practice, with a huge risk of losing their life and the vehicle, but it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Yeah. I would like to mention here that the lunar landers, they were very similar. They had a thrust vector controlled engine, but it was controlled by the pilot, and it was it was overseen by the computer, but it was mainly controlled by the pilot. But the thing about Starship is that there is the offset rocket engine. That's gonna make a lot of problems.
True. Just to add about the lunar landing, it was much easier to land on the moon because of the lower gravity, so you didn't have that much of a pull down on the spacecraft. So you had more time to really control your vectors and your thrust, as opposed to Earth, much greater gravity. You get pulled down quicker.
You're gonna fall to the ground faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, as we spoke about in space news, Elon Musk recently tweeted that SN8, serial number 8, is undergoing testing right now, and they have done pressure tests, and they're going to do 2 static fires. In between, they will have some testing as well. And 2 static fires, the rocket will remain stationary, they'll just fire the engine, and then we're gonna have the real thing. It's gonna do a 20-kilometer hop. It's gonna go 20 kilometers into the air and then come back down and then do a belly flop and then land itself. Hopefully that happens.
Yeah, it's gonna be essentially a kind of like a suborbital real life simulation of the starship. Not just to be clear, it's not going to be the starship with the super heavy main stage. It's only going to be the starship.
Yeah, and just to add, super heavy production is also underway. They're planning to have the flight of super heavy, the first test flight of super heavy by the end of this year, probably.
Hopefully.
But yeah, they're gonna have a hop of that as well, sometime later this year. As of course.
Can you imagine how colossal that thing is gonna be? The main stage. Just like take into account the Falcon 9,
Yeah.
and then just think about the Starship main stage. Just like it dwarfs the Falcon 9 compared to the thing.
Yeah, truly. It's gonna be one of the largest rockets and one of the most powerful rockets in the coming years.
Yeah. The total, just as a note, the total Starship thrust is going to be around 11,500 kilonewtons, and in comparison, the Falcon 9 main stage is only able to pull off around 7,600 kilonewtons of thrust at sea level. So, huge difference.
Yeah, like that's it's almost like you're adding 1.5 Falcon 9s there.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, the Starship will be capable of interplanetary travel.
We spoke about this, and as you know, America is planning to go back to the moon, and with the first woman to land on the moon and the
True.
next man, and they are taking help from private partners. And Starship, the lunar version of the Starship, is one of the contenders, which has been selected. So we're gonna see hopefully gonna see some starships land on the moon, and that's gonna be really epic.
According to the website, though, and Elon Musk himself, the Starship is able to. I mean, technically, it's able to fly out as far as Titan and Jupiter's moons. So, I mean, it's nice to daydream sometimes and just like imagine, having a starship fly out to the, far beyond Mars, basically.
So, it's just the future of spaceflight and the future of human race.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know? Do you remember when the Starship just got introduced? Their model, well, it wasn't completely different, but it was really different at the same time. You remember they were planning on making the Starship with like unfolding sails that were supposed to be the solar panels, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
On that video, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess they scrapped that.
Yeah, I guess they scrapped that, but hopefully they have learned what will suit them best and what will suit everyone best by proceeding in the direction all these serial numbers are going in. Speaking of the right direction of our audience should now be to head over to our Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all the social media that you can find of us and follow us there. And if you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. And our target is to make this podcast a regular thing. So if you want to hear more of it, make it popular. And and if you're a student in UTM, UTSC, or in U of T, Roman, tell them what to do.
Join our Discord. We're waiting for you.
Oh yeah, we are waiting for you. Join our Discord. We have a lovely family there. A lot of friendly people, a lot of interesting people. You'll love to meet them.
Lots of enthusiasts.
Enthusiasts, and they're really enthusiastic of the subjects they are studying, of physics, of spaceflight, and everything. And if you want to join our Discord, the link is in our bio. If you're watching this on Instagram, and
exactly. Yes, and if you have any feedback for our podcast, please put it in the comments below. We're welcoming constructive criticism and feedback to make our podcast better, because we want to, like Shri said, we want to make it a regular thing.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're watching this on YouTube, also like Roman said, we take constructive criticism in our comments, and we like to make this popular. And the link for Discord will be in the description. see you on the next podcast. Bye. See you guys.